Good morning, and thank you very much again. This is my third year with TriDeck Outlook, and in first year I was really nervous. And by each year I'm getting better, specifically because I pretty much get to know this community very much, and I get to love it very much, except all that, I'm not sure what it is, snow, ice, rain outside, but it's not too bad. Last year I was pregnant and driving in the snow, trying to get here. But State of Regional Economy will show you a couple of the things that will hopefully help you in making decisions throughout the year and coming months in regards of economic activity. What I have first on board is just a couple key messages, very simple. Over the year, since September 2011, we had Hanford layoffs, slowed down economic growth in Tri-Cities, and as we know, we were booming through 2009, 10, 11, and we can attribute that mostly to stimulus funding coming here. Most all of the jobs that we lost falls under business and service, professional business services, and we'll see that in a little bit. And this is specifically where we can cluster most of the Hanford companies. But Hanford encompasses enormous number of companies that come in and go as projects come in and go as well. So, industries related to discretionary spending, and this is basically spending on things like you don't have to buy now. I can delay that. So these industries are stabilizing, and this is mainly attributed to retail trade and food services, and also in general trade, transportation, utilities. So sometimes people were not traveling because they can delay that trip, but this year the consumer confidence that has changed. What I have on board first, just to look at the stability of our economic activity in regards of how many people they have employed and how many people are unemployed. So most of the time how we measure economic activity or health of any community is unemployment rate. But for us, that hasn't been true over past couple of years because we both had good growth in employment and also we had substantial growth in unemployment. Currently, unemployment rate in Tri-Cities is 9.7 as of December 2011, and that number just came out yesterday. So we can see that we are trending up while the state and nation are faring better. These are seasonally adjusted numbers, so you can see the trend, where we are heading and what's happening locally, while the state and nation have started decreasing since December of 2009. We have over 12,000 people unemployed, and they're coming from many different occupations and these industries. Most of these unemployed individuals have really good skills, and people who are looking for work and available for work are a good way to say we have good labor force to supply for new economic development or new businesses to come into the area. Next order of business is how many people are actually working. So we have over 12,000 unemployed, but we do have a really good number of people who are working. Over the year, we did see a decrease, and I'm talking about from quarter of 2011 to fourth quarter of 2012. We decreased about 4.9% in non-farm employment. What you're looking at is an index of non-farm employment going back to December 2007. That's when official recession started. And from December 2007 through September 2011, we increased about 11.5% in non-farm employment. That was the highest that we have seen nationwide. And then we have, maintained half of that growth, but losing 4.9% of non-farm employment is very substantial. We can see that state and the nation have not recovered all of their lost employment during recession. It's about 60% what they recovered so far, but they're still in stable growth, about 1.1 to 1.2% a year over the past 3 years. Hopefully, now we have, if you see towards the end, towards December, we have leveled off. That's the expectation. So we have hit the bottom. If that continues, we should start seeing some growth towards the end of this year. When I compare private and public sectors, they're very, very similar coming from December through December 2007 through September of 2011. Difference between government and private sectors is about 1%. So growth in that time between these two segments of industries is very substantial. But we can see that growth in public sectors, which includes healthcare, education, and local government administration, is stable and is still expanding less than 1%, but is still expanding more. But private sector is in decline and stabilizing at the moment. Two of the industries that do give stability or base in any economic area or segment is construction and manufacturing. Construction in Tri-Cities is quite different than anywhere else. When we look at the state and the nation, construction basically was projected it will not recover. It's going to recover very slow. And right now they're projecting that there's some hope for construction. There's some activity in real estate. So that's the hopes of all economic recovery on state national level. But look at what happened through Tri-Cities. If you look at the blue line, that's construction. In 2007 through December 2009, we decreased, and that was in response of recession and consumer cutbacks in regards of buying houses. But then we had a huge rush or influx of spending on construction locally. It was multifamily building, a single family building, and then we had some commercial activity as well. And that was growth of 4.6% through September of 2011. And then everything stalled. What happened in September 2011? Layoffs from Hanford. So there were some take-backs. We have to reconsider what we're building. But right now, towards the end of 2011, we are assuming and thinking that this is actual growth. There is nothing to bring a new influx of spending towards this industry, and now it could be just regular growth from construction and health of this specific industry. From June of 2012 through December, there's pretty good expansion in construction. The second order is manufacturing. Manufacturing is about 60% food manufacturing, and that's highly related on agricultural activities in local area. And we can see that it's very stable over the past couple of years, small growth overall, but we see stability within this industry. We can expand it even more behind food manufacturing, but that's the core of current manufacturing process in Tri-Cities. It is very stable. Over 7,000 people work in manufacturing. Very well-paid jobs overall. Industries related to discretionary spending, as I mentioned earlier, are trade, transportation, utilities. 70% of trade, transportation, utilities is under retail trade. Retail trade has grown over a couple of years by 2 to 2.5% a year. And that's expanding in response to population demand for local shopping. You know, I don't want to drive 2-3 hours to Seattle or Spokane to do some needed shopping. So we have a hub in Kennewick that can supply that demand for local population. Also, leisure and hospitality, about 70% of that employment is under food services. And when you look at food services, if people want to dine out, they want to have good restaurants around to do that. So we have a good expansion. But we did see some leveling off for food services and a little bit of decline over the year, but that's mostly in response to consumer confidence and cautionary spending, because we're not sure what's happening nationally with the budget cuts and fiscal cliff. And so limit on that spending. But overall, we see good trend toward growth. Two industries, they always ask me why I put education and healthcare together along with professional business services. What's relation to that? Relation is this: stability and not stability. So we have one industry that's highly dependent on budgets from Hanford and whatever happens in Hanford, and the other industry that's highly dependent on population growth. And when you compare the two, where do you see the most growth and how things happen? We can see that education and healthcare has grown and stabilized during 2012. In 2011, we did see some reorganization and budget cuts within smaller clinics, but healthcare and education combined, this is specifically private. Nowhere else, I compared a couple other areas, I have not seen as many people employed in private educational healthcare as many as we have in public education and healthcare. It's almost the same amount. So that's good. We are supplying our population and community what they need. We need good education for people to energize and educate our workforce so that they can get good jobs and earn good wages to spend locally, right? So that's the circle that we actually want. And then healthcare in general, I don't want to go to Spokane if I'm really sick. So the other one is professional business services, blue line. We declined, and this is mainly Hanford layoffs, and this is basically the only industry declining over the year. So there was not a large effect on other industries or economy besides this industry and layoffs, as you can see. I have to talk about population. Basically, everything that happens in most of these industries is demand for population. And we do have good growth, but this is highly concerning. The age structure of the current and future population in the local area is very important, not only for how do we manage our services, but how do we work with aging workforce. Over the past couple of years, you see 2001 to 2011 change. We had over 8,000 people move from prime working wage to pre-retirement. That's a lot. So over the next couple of years, through 2021, we'll have about 13,000 people moving into retirement age. We have to have replacement plan. We don't have enough people in next generational talent. If you see it on the, left, right-hand side, next generation talent, we don't have enough people to supply that change when baby boom generation starts retiring. As of 2011, almost all people in baby boom generations are between 48 and 66 years old. It's a very enormous number of population. And this is not only locally, this is statewide, nationally, and it's a huge concern. How do we compensate? The gap between those who are retiring and the next generation is about 7,000 people. We have to have a new generation come into the next generation talent. We have some scholars already in place, but 7,000 gap is huge through 2021. That means we'll have a lack of skillful workforce, lack of new generation coming into replacing all those retiring. Maybe people who want to retire might have to stay and work a little bit longer. You might like it. Even though I know this Tri-City is really good with the weather conditions, and I hear we have like 300 days of sunlight. Past 2 months I didn't see that. But. Almost 1 in 3 people are Latino Hispanic, 28% growth specifically for this ethnicity. And when I relate it in general, what we have grown over the decade, from 2010 to 2000 to 2011, we have grown about 28% as Tri-Cities as a whole. 28% in just that specific ethnicity. There's a change in the dynamics of a population. Certainly we have to address that well and move forward with new plan and new innovations, new strategies, but we can't necessarily just go around it. Look at white population alone. That was a decrease of 4.9%. Black or African American, there was a decrease. The only other ethnicity that was increasing, statewide, nationally, and locally, was Asian, about 3.9%. And in regards of demographics, each ethnicity does have their own specific way of doing things, living lives, right? So we have to look at and readjust, not only as locally, but as the nation as a whole. Addressing that will benefit us in workforce, which I emphasize. With education and good communication through community, we can overcome all of these obstacles well. This is projections from State Office of Financial Management. And since 2006 through 2011, population in general expanded by 13%. Growth is supposed to slow down. That's projection again, but anything can change from today to tomorrow. But stagnation in the air gives some days off to meteorologists, so I don't know what's going to happen for me. I might give some days off. 2011 through 2016, 7.6%, and we can see through 21 that will decrease to 6.6%. 250,000 of people live here. When you compare it to 250,000, it sounds bigger than when you say 250,000. We have expanded a lot, and a lot of people live here, and all of these services and industries I have mentioned and goods that we need is demanded by population and for population. As President said, government is by people and for the people, so most of our industries is by the people, for the people. How long will it take us to recover? When you look at this graph, y-axis and x-y-axis, you see employment in months. What I did, I took 1995, 1996 downturn in local economy due to handful layoffs mostly, and I wanted to see how long it took us to recover. From first month of layoffs, of decreases, to the last month, it was 73 months in recovery to gain that growth. That's around 6 years. In 2004 and 5 and 6, when we started declining, it took us only about 16 months to recover. Now our losses are between 2004 and 1994. How long should we expect this recovery to happen? It could be 25 months, it could be 36 months, or 73 months. But if we stabilize as projected, Benton Franklin WDA was the only area growing at 2.2% for past 10 years. And it's still fastest growing area with projections of 1.6% and 1.5% through 2020. It's still fastest in the state, but it's half of what we have done so far. So if we grow at 1% a year from December, we might be able to gain that lost employment through 2014. But if we don't gain 1%, we might expand to 2015. Outlook, we're expecting employment to stabilize and level off in 2013, hopefully pick up towards the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. Population growth, we are still expanding, and that will drive most of the economic activities in Tri-Cities. Industries, healthcare, as we have seen in the trend, healthcare is been expanding for many years, and it's still expanding a little bit slower rate, but it's supplying what we need for local population. Educational services, both private and public. We are not sure what's going to happen with legislative in regards of supplying all the money for K through 12 funding money, but we'll see what effect will that have on general educational services. We do have new charter schools coming around, not necessarily in Tri-Cities, but in Washington State. Food manufacturing is just as stable as agriculture. Agriculture had one of the best years in 2008 and 2009, but 2012 was just amazing. In 2012, we just didn't have enough labor force to supply everything that's needed. We had over 2,000 people more than 2011 were working agriculture. Just products from agriculture that were coming out were the top of the list. Apples, cherries, potatoes, everything. It was just an amazing year for agriculture last year. We'll see what happens this year, but the weather controls whatever happens in agricultural activities, also trade activities. The caution for any forecast or outlook, I'm not doing forecasts, let's do this. The outlook is debt ceiling nationally and also budget. Most of our Hanford funding will depend on the budgets, and that's still uncertain what's going on there. Also, whatever is happening in Europe, Eurozone is unstable. They are going through housing crisis right now, and we'll see what effect that will have on our local economy or nationally. And then we have Chinese valuation issues. We'll see what that effect will have on national, state, or local. So those are all outside factors that do have impact locally. And for that, I thank you very much. And if you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to contact me or just talk to TriDec. Thank you, TriDec, very much.